Alcohol is not just a drink. It's a spiritual weapon dressed as celebration. You've been taught to see it as harmless, fun, even sophisticated. But what if the very substance you turn to in moments of joy or stress is the same thing pulling you further away from who you really are? From ancient temples to modern nightclubs, alcohol has always held power, but not the kind you think. It's not just the hangovers or the health risks. It's the way it silences your inner voice, numbs your intuition, severs your connection to the part of you that knows. And the truth is, most people never question it. They just follow the script. Drink to connect. Drink to escape. Drink to feel alive. But what if all it really does is keep you spiritually asleep while convincing you you're awake? You weren't born craving alcohol. You were taught to want it. And long before it became the symbol of modern nightlife and social connection, it was something else entirely. Its story doesn't begin in breweries or vineyards. It begins in the dust-covered chambers of alchemists and mystics, in rituals older than any religion. The word alcohol comes from the Arabic alcohol, which originally referred to a fine black powder used to darken the eyes. But to the alchemists of the ancient world, the term held a deeper, more dangerous meaning. It referred to the process of distillation, of drawing out the spirit from a substance. To them, alcohol was seen as a volatile essence, the spirit extracted from matter, the very soul removed from the body. This is why we still call alcoholic drinks spirits. It's not just a metaphor. It's etymology. It's a warning. In those days, alcohol wasn't poured casually at parties or stocked behind every bar. It was treated with a combination of reverence and fear. It was understood to be a tool capable of altering the soul, unbinding the self from its grounded state. Used in sacred rituals, sometimes even in rites of passage, it was not meant to be consumed lightly. The ancients understood something we've forgotten, that alcohol doesn't just change your mood, it alters your energy. It manipulates your frequency. And if misused, it can open doors you might not know how to close. Today, that spiritual awareness is buried beneath centuries of cultural rewiring. What was once a substance reserved for initiates and sacred rites has become a marketing tool, a social lubricant, a casual habit that barely raises an eyebrow. But the essence of alcohol hasn't changed. Only our relationship to it has. And by losing that understanding, we've left ourselves vulnerable, not just physically, but spiritually. Because whether or not you believe in energy, it still believes in you. Whether or not you pay attention to your aura, the things you consume still impact it. And alcohol, more than most, leaves a mark. The Sumerians offered wine to their gods. The Egyptians linked it to Osiris, god of death and resurrection. The Greeks gave to Dionysus, the god of divine madness and ecstasy. Even then, they knew this substance wasn't just about pleasure. It could transport you or destroy you. But over time, that respect gave way to indulgence. What was once symbolic of spiritual transformation became just another Friday night tradition. It lost its sacred edge. And when something once sacred becomes casual, it becomes dangerous. Let me share something that will shock you. In ancient mystery schools, alcohol was sometimes used as a test, not to get drunk, but to see who could maintain their spiritual center while under its influence. Most failed. Those who passed understood that the substance wasn't the point. Maintaining consciousness was. The legacy of alcohol is far older than our modern culture and far more complex. It's been used to invoke gods, escape pain, dissolve ego, and summon visions. But just as it can open one kind of door, it can close another. You may not see it happening. That's the problem. It doesn't come as an explosion. It comes quietly, subtly, in the small disconnections. A little less clarity, a little more numbness, a weaker sense of self. And over time, that dulling adds up until you forget what it felt like to be fully awake, until you start to believe that the person you're under the influence is the real you. But it isn't. It never was. Here's what the billion-dollar alcohol industry doesn't want you to know. They spend decades studying how to make their products not just addictive, but spiritually disruptive. The timing of their advertising, the colors they use, the emotional triggers they deploy. It's all designed to create a spiritual dependency you don't even recognize. Think about it. When was the last time you saw an alcohol advertisement that didn't promise transformation? Be more confident. be more attractive, be more fun. They're not selling you a drink. They're selling you a different version of yourself, a version that apparently can only exist with their product in your system. You've probably heard that alcohol affects your brain, your liver, your behavior, but no one talks about how it affects your energy. And yet, that's where the real damage begins. Beneath the surface, in the part of you that most people don't even know how to measure. You're not just muscle and memory. You're vibration, frequency. You are, at your core, a field of energy in constant motion, radiating and receiving at all times. And alcohol interferes with that field in ways science is only beginning to understand, but spiritual traditions have been warning about for centuries. Every ancient esoteric system agrees on one thing. You're surrounded by an energetic structure called the aura, the biofield, the light body, that holds and expresses your spiritual vitality. This field protects you, guides you, and helps you align with your higher self. It is your unseen immune system, your spiritual filter, the space where clarity, intuition, and purpose are stored. And when you drink, you compromise it. Alcohol doesn't just fog your mind. It creates microscopic fractures in your aura, subtle tears and gaps. And through those gaps, things get in. Energies that don't belong to you. Thought forms that feed on confusion. Emotional debris from others. Sometimes even entities that are drawn to the frequency of disconnection. This isn't fantasy. It's a pattern, repeated, observed, ignored. There's a reason why people often feel spiritually scattered, emotionally unstable, or energetically drained after drinking. It's not just dehydration or lack of sleep. It's the weakening of the field, the loss of energetic integrity. The root chakra, the part of your energy system linked to survival and physical pleasure, becomes overstimulated. You become grounded in the material, pulled toward base desires. Meanwhile, the crown chakra, your gateway to higher consciousness, gets dulled, numbed, blocked. That's the trade. You feel temporarily alive, but spiritually cut off. The more you drink, the more that becomes your baseline. And no one warns you about this. Alcohol is clever. That's what makes it dangerous, because the trap isn't built on pain. It's built on pleasure. It doesn't come to you with a warning label that says, this will pull you further from your essence. It comes dressed in comfort, in laughter, in ease. It offers a brief escape from the pressure, the noise, the weight of being human. And that's the illusion, because for a few short hours, it feels like relief. You feel lighter, more confident, more connected. The social anxiety fades. The overthinking slows down. And suddenly you're in flow. You say what's on your mind. You let loose. You feel alive. And for a moment you think, this is who I really am. But what if it's not? What if what you're experiencing isn't your authentic self breaking free, but your awareness slipping away? Alcohol doesn't free you. It numbs you. It silences the internal chatter, not by resolving it, but by muting the signals. The anxiety, the fear, the doubts, those are messengers. They're telling you where you're misaligned, where you're holding tension, where you betrayed your truth. When you drink, you don't listen to those messengers. You push them into the corner and dance in the silence they leave behind. But the silence isn't peace. It's suppression. Let me tell you about Sarah, a successful marketing executive who came to one of my workshops. She told me she only felt truly creative when she had a glass of wine. It opens me up, she said. It lets my ideas flow. But here's what Sarah discovered when she stopped drinking for 30 days. Her creativity didn't disappear. It exploded. The wine wasn't unlocking her creativity. It was temporarily removing her self-doubt. The ideas were always there. The wine was just turning down the volume on her inner critic long enough for her to hear them. This is a counterfeit that alcohol offers everywhere. It doesn't give you confidence. It temporarily removes your fear. It doesn't make you more social. It lowers your boundaries. It doesn't make you more creative. It silences your judgment long enough for you to express what was already there. And yet the illusion works because it's fast. It doesn't ask for introspection or breath work or sitting with your shadow. It gives you results in minutes. And when you're exhausted by life, by your mind, by the sheer weight of pretending everything is fine, fast feels like freedom. But it's not. It's a high-interest loan you're going to pay back in energy, clarity, and self-trust. No one is born reaching for a bottle. That craving, that pull toward alcohol, it's not instinct, it's programming. From childhood, the world around you begins teaching you that alcohol is not only acceptable but essential. To celebrate, you drink. To relax, you drink. To mourn, to connect, to escape. There's a drink for every emotion. It becomes a script you follow, without even realizing it. A ritual woven so deeply into the fabric of your life that questioning it feels like rebellion. But that's not a coincidence. That's design. From the moment you were old enough to observe, you saw it. Maybe it was the grown-ups at the dinner table raising their glasses while the kids drank juice. Maybe it was the characters in your favorite movies unwinding with a glass in hand after a hard day. Maybe it was the party scenes, the music videos, the ads filled with laughter, sex appeal, and confidence, all orbiting around the bottle. You absorbed the message long before you took your first sip. This is what adults do. This is how freedom looks. This is what fun feels like. By the time you're old enough to drink, the act isn't new. It's familiar, expected, even encouraged. And when you resist, you feel like the one out of sync, the awkward one, the difficult one. Because the system doesn't just sell alcohol. It sells the idea that drinking is a rite of passage, a cultural norm, a badge of belonging. Refusing to drink often feels like refusing the connection that comes with it. And that's the genius of the programming. It makes conformity feel like choice. But beneath the surface of all that marketing, all those celebrations and clinking glasses, there's a more subtle layer at work. Alcohol doesn't just mask pain, it helps you avoid facing it. And in a society that discourages emotional depth, that path of avoidance is carved early. You're taught not to feel too deeply, to suppress, to stay functional. Emotions are seen as inconvenient, vulnerability as weakness. So when you discover something that softens the edge of your discomfort, that numbs the sharpness of your internal world, it feels like salvation. What most don't realize is that emotional suppression isn't natural. It's a learned behavior. And once you learn it, you look for tools to maintain it. Alcohol is one of the most socially acceptable ones. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You just pour, sip, laugh, and move on. But the more you use it, the more your nervous system starts to rely on it. The more your identity intertwines with the sensation it gives you. You forget how to sit with discomfort. You forget how to access joy without help. You forget that you were once capable of feeling deeply and fully without a substance propping you up. And the industry knows this. They don't just sell drinks. They sell dependency, strategically, seductively. The marketing isn't random. It's a psychological assault. Colors, sounds, slogans, they all work together to create emotional association. The cold bottle in the summer sun, the champagne at the wedding, the whiskey by the fireplace. These aren't just images, they're emotional triggers, reinforcements. They make you feel like you're missing out if you don't participate, like sobriety is emptiness, like stillness is boredom. But it's a lie. A beautifully packaged lie that keeps billions flowing into the system every year while your energy, clarity, and connection quietly leak out. When you drink, you open the door. But do you know what you're letting in? Most people don't because they've only been told half the story. That alcohol lowers inhibition, affects coordination, makes you feel more relaxed. But the truth is, what's happened behind the scenes is far more complex and far more dangerous. Because once your aura is weakened, once the protective field around your energy body is torn, you become susceptible to more than just emotional confusion. You become energetically available to forces that thrive on your disconnection. Many ancient traditions, from shamanic to hermetic to spiritist, have long warned about this. Alcohol doesn't just alter your state. It creates openings. It creates access. And not all of what steps in through those openings has your best interests in mind. Rudolf Steiner called them subnatural beings. Some call them astral larvae. Others refer to them as obsessing spirits or parasitic entities. The names vary, but the pattern is consistent. There are non-physical forms that feed on confusion, fear, addiction, and spiritual detachment. And alcohol, by its very nature, makes you easier to reach, easier to influence. Think about the times you've seen someone blackout drunk. Think about the look in their eyes, the vacancy, the unpredictability, the absence of the person you once knew. It's not just intoxication. It's spiritual dissociation. The light dims, and in its place, something else animates the body. Maybe not fully, maybe not always, but enough. Enough to act without awareness. Enough to create karmic damage. Enough to forget what you did and wonder why you don't feel like yourself afterward. There's a reason why stories of violence, abuse, or complete personality shifts so often involve alcohol. It's not just psychological, it's energetic. When the true self steps back, something else can step forward. The energy you emit when intoxicated, especially when it becomes habitual, acts like a beacon. It signals to whatever's out there. I am open. I am unprotected. I am no longer in full control. And the truth is, most people don't even notice. These forces don't always show up like horror movies would have you believe. Often, they embed themselves as thoughts, cravings, patterns. You think the compulsion to drink again is just a habit. But what if it's being whispered to you, fed to you, pushed into your emotional field by something that benefits from your disconnection? These entities don't need your belief. They just need your consent. And drinking is consent, not in the legal sense, but in the energetic one. You open the door, they enter, and they stay longer than a hangover. This isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to show you how serious the spiritual implications really are. Because when we numb ourselves repeatedly, we don't just lose presence, we lose sovereignty. The ability to choose our path clearly, to remain aligned with the higher aspects of who we are, becomes muddied. We become more reactive, more suggestible, and less discerning of what is truly ours and what has been placed there. The warnings were always there, hidden in plain sight, woven into the teachings of the ancient masters, the sacred texts, the wisdom traditions that modern life has mostly forgotten or watered down. From east to west, across cultures and continents, one message echoes again and again. Protect your clarity, because clarity is a gateway to truth, and truth is the path to liberation. And nothing dulls that clarity faster than intoxication. In the Bhagavad Gita, the pursuit of higher states of consciousness is grounded in purity of thought, body, and intention. Sattva, the quality of harmony and light, is seen as essential for spiritual progress. But alcohol, with its destabilizing effects, falls under tamas, the energy of darkness, inertia, and confusion. The drink doesn't elevate you. It drags you deeper into density. It muddies the waters of perception, making it harder to discern the real from false. And if you can't tell what's real, how can you ever truly wake up? Buddha warned of intoxicants explicitly, not because he wanted police pleasure, but because he understood their impact on the mind. Intoxication clouds a path. It weakens awareness. And without awareness, suffering multiplies. The Eightfold Path, right speech, right action, right intention, demands presence, and alcohol erodes it. You might feel more free in the moment, but it's a false freedom. It's not liberation, it's sedation. The Tao Te Ching, quiet and powerful, speaks of alignment with the Tao, the natural flow of the universe. To follow the Tao is to move with balance, grace, and inner stillness. But alcohol throws you off center. It pulls you into extremes. It creates artificial highs that disconnect you from the quiet rhythms of intuition. And when you're out of sync with the Tao, life becomes a struggle. You force, you chase, you suffer. The stillness you seek slips further away. Even in Christianity, the warnings are there. If you look past the rituals and symbols, saints and mystics spoke often the need for vigilance, of staying awake, spiritually sober, of guarding the heart and mind from anything that leads you into excess or forgetfulness. St. Augustine described drunkenness as a form of self-abandonment, a breaking of the connection between soul and source, a surrender not in devotion, but in escapism. Islam's teachings are more direct. Alcohol is haram, prohibited, and not because of moral superiority, but because of the chaos it unleashes on the soul. In Islamic mysticism, the body is seen as a vessel of divine trust, a temple, and altering your state through intoxication is a violation of that trust. It's not about control. It's about sacred responsibility. In Hermeticism and the alchemical traditions, alcohol plays a dual role. It is revered as a solvent, a purifying force capable of extracting essence. But it is also feared because what extracts isn't always light. It can dissolve ego or dissolve clarity. The alchemists knew that intention was everything. Used wisely, a substance can be a teacher. Used carelessly, it becomes a trap. They understood the razor-thin line between transformation and destruction. Yet somewhere along the way, these teachings were diluted. Modern culture cherry-picked symbols, wine at the altar, toast at weddings, Dionysian ecstasy, but discarded the wisdom. We kept the aesthetics and lost the depth. We reduced sacred substances to social tools, and we started calling spiritual numbness fun. The world tells you that to question alcohol is to be uptight. To reject it is to isolate yourself. But the spiritual traditions say otherwise. They don't shame the seeker who says no to intoxication. They honor them, because to stay clear-headed in a world addicted to escape is an act of devotion, not to a deity, but to your own soul. It was never about rules. It was always about resonance, about keeping your frequency high enough to stay connected. And when you drink, that frequency drops. You may not notice it right away, but your soul does. Your dreams become foggier. Your prayers feel distant. Your meditation becomes a struggle. That's not a coincidence. That's consequence. Just as alcohol leaves a mark on your body, it imprints itself on your energy. But damage isn't the end of the story. Energy isn't static. It's fluid, intelligent, and self-correcting when given the right conditions. What's been fragmented can be reconnected. What's been dim can be relit. The healing doesn't happen in a bottle or from a prescription. It begins when you choose to remember what alcohol made you forget, that you already have the tools. You always did. The first step is presence. Coming back into your body, not as something to escape, but something to honor. Presence doesn't require effort. It requires permission. Permission to feel, to witness what's been numbed, to sit with the discomfort that alcohol was shielding you from. That discomfort isn't your enemy. It's your signal. It's showing you where you've abandoned yourself. And it's asking to be met, not muted. From there, healing becomes a practice, not a quick fix, but a recalibration. Meditation helps restore the mind's natural rhythm, pulling you back into coherence. Breath work shifts your nervous system out of survival mode and back into regulation. With every conscious breath, you tell your body, I'm here now, I'm safe, we're not running anymore. But the repair goes deeper than just mental clarity. Your energetic field, your aura, needs restoration too. Practices like Reiki, sound healing, and energy clearing work because they don't just soothe your surface. They recalibrate your frequency. They patch the tears. They close the openings. They bring your energy back into wholeness. It may sound subtle, even abstract, but when you experience it, you'll feel the shift. You'll feel the space returning. You'll feel the parts of you that were scattered start to gather again. Yoga is another powerful ally. Not just a stretching of the poses, but the union it facilitates between breath, body, and awareness. It aligns your physical and energetic systems. It rewires your impulses, gently dissolving the restlessness that once sought escape. And with every movement, you begin to reestablish a relationship with your body that isn't built on punishment or avoidance, but on trust. Nature plays its part too. Few things cleanse your field as quickly as the earth itself. Time in the forest, by the ocean, under the open sky, these aren't luxuries. They're medicine. They reset your rhythm. They quiet the noise. They restore the original signal. Because when you immerse yourself in natural frequency, you remember what your own frequency sounds like. And it's not chaotic. It's not desperate. It's not lost. It's calm, steady, whole. There's also the quiet, often underestimated power of intention. Your field responds to thought, to will, to choice. When you set an intention to heal, you begin to reorganize your reality around that frequency. You start noticing the people, the practices, the insights that support your path. Synchronicity increases. Resistance softens. It's not magic, it's alignment. And it begins when you decide you're done running from yourself. This healing journey isn't about shame. It's not about becoming pure or perfect. It's about becoming aware. And with that awareness, you start to see alcohol for what it really was. Not a failure, but a teacher. One that showed you what doesn't work. One that revealed the parts of you still waiting to be met with compassion instead of sedation. You don't have to regret the past or release it. You just have to stop repeating it.